Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're delving into some of the most harrowing moments in modern history. Moments where the line between law and chaos became terrifyingly thin. We're counting down the top 10 deadliest and most intense police standoffs ever recorded. These aren't just stories from action movies. They are real-life events where every second was a matter of life and death, where decisions made under immense pressure had devastating and far-reaching consequences. The tension in these situations is almost unbelievable, a pressure cooker of fear, ideology and firepower that inevitably explodes. Each of these standoffs is a complex tapestry of human drama, tactical maneuvering, and often tragic miscalculation. We'll explore the moments that led to these confrontations, the nail-biting hours or even days they lasted, and the shocking outcomes that left communities and entire nations reeling. These are situations where law enforcement officers put their lives on the line, facing down incredible odds, while civilians were often caught in the crossfire. The stakes couldn't be higher, with lives, families, and the very fabric of social order hanging in the balance. So buckle up, because this is going to be an intense journey. We're going to examine these events with the detail and respect they deserve, exploring the human cost on all sides. As we count down from 10, the situations get progressively more shocking, more complex and more tragic, culminating in a standoff at number 1 that is truly the stuff of nightmares. You won't want to miss a single moment of this deep dive into the heart of conflict. Stay with us. Kicking off our list at number 10 is a name that has become synonymous with tragic standoffs, Waco. In the spring of 1993, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco and Firearms, or the ATF, attempted to raid the Mount Carmel Center compound, home to a religious sect known as the Branch Davidians, led by the charismatic and controversial David Koresh. The feds suspected the group of stockpiling illegal weapons. What was supposed to be a swift raid devolved almost instantly into a chaotic and deadly gunfight, leaving 4 ATF agents and 6 Branch Davidians dead. This bloody opening was just the beginning of what would become a grueling 51-day siege. The entire world watched as the FBI took over, surrounding the compound with tactical vehicles and negotiators. It became a bizarre, tense spectacle broadcast live on television. You had negotiators trying to reason with Koresh, who saw the entire conflict through a biblical, apocalyptic lens. They blasted Tibetan chants and rock music at the compound to wear down the occupants. Meanwhile, inside, men, women and children were living in increasingly desperate conditions, their fate hanging on the words of their leader and the decisions of the agents outside. The standoff finally reached its horrific climax on April 19th, when the FBI launched a tear gas assault to force the Davidians out. A fire erupted, engulfing the compound in flames and tragically killing 76 people inside, including more than 20 children. Coming in at number 9 is an event that felt like a Michael Bay movie came to life on the streets of Los Angeles. The North Hollywood shootout of 1997 wasn't so much a standoff as it was a full-blown urban gun battle. It all started when 2 men, Larry Phillips Jr. and Emil Matasareanu, both heavily armed and clad in full body armor, attempted to rob a Bank of America branch. The police responded quickly, but they were completely, terrifyingly outgunned. The robbers were carrying fully automatic rifles, weapons designed for a battlefield, while the responding LAPD officers were armed with standard-issue 9mm pistols and shotguns. It was like bringing a knife to a tank fight. For 44 agonizing minutes, the streets of North Hollywood became a war zone. Phillips and Matasareanu unleashed over 1,000 rounds, their bullets tearing through police cruisers, buildings, and anything else in their path. The television helicopters broadcasting live captured surreal images of one of the robbers, Phillips, calmly strolling through a parking lot, firing his AK-47 at officers who were pinned down, unable to effectively return fire. The shootout was a massive wake-up call for American law enforcement, highlighting a dangerous gap in firepower. It directly led to police departments across the country arming their patrol officers with higher caliber rifles to ensure they would never be so devastatingly outmatched again. At number 8, we travel to the remote mountains of northern Idaho for the 1992 Ruby Ridge standoff. This incident involved the Weaver family, Randy, his wife Vicky and their children, who lived in a secluded cabin, holding strong anti-government and white separatist beliefs. The whole thing started over a relatively minor charge. Randy Weaver sold 2 illegally modified shotguns to an undercover federal informant. When he failed to appear in court, federal marshals were sent to arrest him, setting the stage for a deadly confrontation. The situation escalated dramatically when a shootout erupted between the marshals and the Weavers, resulting in the deaths of Deputy United States Marshal William Deegan and the Weavers' 14-year-old son Samuel. Following that initial bloodshed, the FBI's hostage rescue team was called in, surrounding the small cabin. The situation became a tense 11-day siege. The rules of engagement were controversially changed, allowing agents to shoot any armed adult male outside the cabin. This led to an FBI sniper wounding Randy Weaver and another family friend, and then, tragically, killing Vicki Weaver as she stood in the doorway of her home, holding her infant daughter. The event sparked a massive public outcry and intense debate about government overreach and the use of force, becoming a rallying cry for militia movements and anti-government groups across the United States. Ruby Ridge remains a deeply polarizing event to this day. For our number 7 spot, we go to Philadelphia in 1985 for one of the most shocking and controversial actions ever taken by an American police force against its own citizens. The target was MOVE, a radical black liberation back-to-nature group that lived in a row house in a West Philadelphia neighborhood. Tensions between MOVE and the city had been simmering for years, marked by previous confrontations and complaints from neighbors about sanitation and constant bullhorn pronouncements. On May 13, 1985, the city decided to act, attempting to evict the group and arrest members on various charges. Police arrived in force, but the MOVE members were fortified and armed, refusing to surrender. After a lengthy standoff and a firefight in which police fired thousands of rounds of ammunition into the house, the situation took a horrific turn. From a helicopter, the Philadelphia police dropped a bomb, an explosive device made of C4 and Tovex, onto the roof of the MOVE house. The goal was supposedly to destroy a fortified bunker, but the bomb ignited a massive fire. In a decision that remains incomprehensible and horrifying, city officials ordered firefighters to let the fire burn. The blaze spread uncontrollably, consuming not just the MOVE compound but an entire city block, destroying over 60 homes. When the smoke cleared, 11 people inside the MOVE house, including 5 children, were dead. Number 6 on our list is a firefight so intense and consequential that it is studied by law enforcement to this day: the 1986 FBI shootout in Miami. The event pitted 8 FBI agents against 2 serial bank robbers and murderers, William Maddox and Michael Platt. The agents had been tracking the pair and managed to corner their vehicle in a suburban South Florida neighborhood. What followed was less of a standoff and more of a 5-minute explosion of pure, unadulterated violence. The agents believed they had the advantage, but they severely underestimated the determination and firepower of the suspects, particularly Platt, who was armed with a powerful Ruger Mini 14 rifle. In the brutal, close-quarters gun battle that ensued, nearly 150 shots were fired. Despite being outnumbered 4-1, Platt and Maddox inflicted devastating casualties on the FBI team. Both suspects were hit multiple times early in the fight, but they continued to battle with ferocious intensity. By the time it was over, both Maddox and Platt were dead, but at a terrible cost. 2 FBI agents, Jerry Dove and Benjamin Grogan, were killed, and 5 other agents were wounded, some critically. The shootout was a brutal lesson for the FBI, exposing the inadequacy of their standard-issue revolvers against determined criminals with semi-automatic rifles. It led to the Bureau and police forces nationwide transitioning to more powerful and higher-capacity semi-automatic handguns. At number 5, we have a story that felt like it was ripped from a Hollywood thriller: the 2013 manhunt for Christopher Dorner. Dorner was a former LAPD officer and U.S. Navy reservist who had been fired from the police force. Believing he was unjustly terminated, he embarked on a chilling revenge spree targeting law enforcement officers and their families. He published a lengthy manifesto online declaring unconventional and asymmetrical warfare against the LAPD. His rampage began with the murders of the daughter of a former LAPD captain and her fiancé, launching one of the largest manhunts in California history. For 10 days, Southern California was on edge, gripped by fear as Dorner eluded a massive multi-agency task force. The manhunt culminated in the snowy San Bernardino Mountains near Big Bear Lake. After a carjacking and a shootout with wildlife officers, Dorner barricaded himself inside a vacant cabin. A massive police presence, including SWAT teams, descended on the location, surrounding the cabin and engaging in another fierce gun battle. Tear gas was deployed into the cabin in an attempt to force him out. As the standoff dragged on, a fire broke out inside the structure, similar to the Waco siege. Authorities waited for the blaze to subside, and afterward, charred human remains were found inside, later confirmed to be Christopher Dorner. The manhunt was over, but it left a trail of death, fear, and lingering questions about the system he had railed against. Our number 4 entry is a chilling event that turned a peaceful protest into a scene of urban warfare. On July 7, 2016, in Dallas, Texas, hundreds of people were marching to protest the police killings of 2 African-American men in other states. As the protest was winding down, a sniper opened fire. The shooter, Micah Xavier Johnson, an Army Reserve veteran, had taken up a position in a building overlooking the march route. His targets were not the protesters, but the police officers who were there to protect them. It was a calculated, cold-blooded ambush. Chaos erupted as shots rang out, sending protesters scrambling for cover and officers running toward the danger. Johnson moved through the El Centro College building, continuing his assault and turning downtown Dallas into a hunting ground. He was armed with a semi-automatic rifle and was highly skilled, using shoot-and-move tactics. After killing 5 officers and wounding 9 others, plus 2 civilians, Johnson was eventually cornered by police on the 2nd floor of the college parking garage. A lengthy standoff ensued, with negotiators attempting to talk him down. Johnson was reportedly singing, laughing, and taunting the officers, claiming he wanted to kill white people, especially white officers. When negotiations failed, and fearing he would attack again, the Dallas police made an unprecedented decision. They used a bomb disposal robot, armed with a C4 explosive, to kill the suspect, ending the standoff in a truly 21st-century fashion. Breaking into our top 3 is the 41-day armed standoff at the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge in Oregon back in 2016. This was a different kind of standoff, less of a frantic firefight and more of a slow-burn occupation. It all started when a group of armed protesters, led by Ammon and Ryan Bundy, who are the sons of Cliven Bundy, famous for his own standoff with the government in 2014, seized control of the headquarters of the Wildlife Refuge. They were protesting the imprisonment of 2 local ranchers, and were really part of a larger movement demanding that the federal government turn over public lands to local control. For weeks, these occupiers, who saw themselves as patriots, used the refuge as a platform, holding press conferences and calling for others to join them. The standoff, honestly, was a strange mix of tense armed confrontation and bizarre media spectacle. The FBI and state police surrounded the refuge but kept their distance, hoping to avoid another Ruby Ridge or Waco. Their strategy was one of patience, slowly cutting off the occupiers' supply lines and arresting them when they ventured out. The occupation finally reached its tragic climax during one of these trips, when law enforcement tried to arrest the leadership. During the confrontation, one of the occupiers, Lavoy Finicum, was shot and killed after appearing to reach for a weapon. That death really broke the back of the movement, and the remaining few occupiers surrendered a couple of weeks later, ending the long, strange, and ultimately deadly standoff. The runner-up for the most intense standoff takes us to Tyler, Texas in 2005. On a February morning, David Hernandez Arroyo Sr. pulled up to the Smith County Courthouse with a singular violent purpose. His ex-wife, Maribel Estrada, was there to finalize their divorce. Clad in a tactical vest and armed with a semi-automatic rifle, a handgun, and hundreds of rounds of ammunition, Arroyo opened fire on the courthouse steps, instantly killing his ex-wife. Her son, who heroically tried to intervene, was shot and wounded. Arroyo then engaged in a fierce gun battle with courthouse security and local law enforcement, who rushed to the scene. The shootout was intense and chaotic, with Arroyo showing a chilling level of preparedness and aggression. He pinned down officers, his high-powered rifle just chewing up the courthouse's stone columns where police were taking cover. During the battle, a local civilian, Mark Wilson, who was legally carrying a concealed weapon, drew his pistol and fired at Arroyo, distracting him and likely saving the life of at least one officer. Tragically, Arroyo returned fire, killing Wilson. The gunfight finally ended when police shot and killed Arroyo right there on the courthouse steps. In just a few minutes, he had killed 2 people, wounded several others, and turned a place of law and order into a terrifying battlefield. And at number 1, we have the 2016 Baton Rouge police shooting, an event that really stands out for its cold, calculated and ambush-style nature. On July 17, just 10 days after the Dallas police ambush, a former Marine named Gavin Long, dressed in black and armed with 2 rifles and a pistol, began hunting police officers in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Tensions in the city were already extremely high after the fatal police shooting of Alton Sterling just weeks earlier. Long, who had posted videos online railing against police brutality, traveled from his home in Missouri specifically to target and kill law enforcement. He wasn't looking for a standoff. He was seeking to execute officers. He started his attack by opening fire on police officers at a gas station, then moved methodically down the road, engaging other officers who were responding to the initial reports of shots fired. It was a carefully planned ambush. Long used the terrain and buildings for cover, engaging multiple officers in a running gun battle that lasted for several minutes but, honestly, felt like an eternity. He moved with military precision, flanking and outmaneuvering his targets. Before he was finally shot and killed by a SWAT team officer from over 100 yards away, Long had murdered 3 officers, Montrell Jackson, Matthew Gerald, and Brad Garofalo, and wounded 3 others. It was a terrifyingly efficient act of targeted violence that sent shockwaves through a nation already on edge. As we've seen in this countdown, these standoffs are more than just explosive confrontations. They are deeply human tragedies with devastating consequences that ripple through families, communities, and the entire nation. Each one serves as a stark and painful reminder of the immense risks that law enforcement officers face every single day they put on the uniform. They are asked to walk into chaos, to face down unimaginable danger, and to make split-second life-or-death decisions under the most extreme pressure imaginable. These events also highlight the terrible cost paid by civilians, victims, and sometimes even the perpetrators, caught in these maelstroms of violence. The stories of Waco, North Hollywood, Ruby Ridge, and all the others are complex, and there are rarely easy answers or simple villains and heroes. They force us to ask difficult questions about firearms, mental health, government authority, and the deep divisions that can exist within our society. Reflecting on these events isn't about sensationalism. It's about understanding the stakes and honoring the memory of those who lost their lives on all sides of the conflict. It's about learning from the past in the hopes of preventing such tragedies in the future. We encourage you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Please remember that these are sensitive topics that affected real people and real families, so let's keep the discussion respectful and constructive. What can we learn from these intense standoffs? How can we better support both our law enforcement and our communities to prevent such violence? Thank you for joining me on this intense and somber journey. If you found this video informative, please consider liking and subscribing for more deep dives into critical events. Stay safe out there.